It's the Church of Jesus Christ.
As today's postmodern culture exalts feelings over reality and enshrines evolution as indisputable science, human beings are demoted in importance. Nature itself becomes God, an uncaring, indifferent God who would rather see the human race become extinct.
I don't really need people, but people need me.
In a film for the environmental group Conservation International, actress Julia Roberts narrates as Mother Nature in a demeaning tone towards the human race.
I have fed species greater than you, and I have starved species greater than you.
The trend now is to embrace the culture of death. We are in the way, we are emitting too many greenhouse gases, and that it's okay to kill our fellow human beings. And we see that there are people that very openly talk about the need to decrease the population of the world, to save the planet.
One such example was the eco-terrorist James J. Lee, who in the name of saving the planet held hostages at the Discovery Channel in 2010, demanding the development of shows that, in his words, talk about evolution and Darwin until it sinks into the stupid people's brains.
And he viewed humans as a blight on the earth that really need to be destroyed. And in fact, he talked about Darwin and Malthus, who Darwin drew on, as that people need to learn more and more about.
Thomas Malthus was an Anglican clergyman and statistician who came up with the theory that human population was growing exponentially, but the human resources needed to sustain that population was only growing arithmetically, so agriculture and infrastructure, etc. And so he believed that the humankind was on course for a catastrophic collapse, that the earth could not support the population.
We should sedulously encourage the other forms of destruction, make the streets narrower, crowd more people into the houses, and court the return of the plague. Thomas Malthus.
These Malthusian ideas inspired draconian policies that persist in far-left academia today.
Eric Pianka gave a talk to the Texas Academy of Sciences in which he made some rather shocking statements, including that humans were no better than bacteria. But he also claimed that he thought that it would be a good thing if 90% of the human population would be wiped out.
In a distinguished lecturer series held at Indiana University, the late Eric Pianka, evolutionary ecologist and professor at the University of Texas at Austin, shared his dystopian vision for humanity.
I want 90% of Americans dead, too. I want Ebola Zaire to be airborne. I want 9 out of 10 people I know dead.
In another twist on social Darwinism, the white nationalist movement appeals to evolution as they work to radicalize people toward racist violence.
Might is right. The subtitle of it is Survival of the Fittest, and it's one of the most incendiary pieces of social Darwinism that I've ever read. In 2022, in Buffalo, there was another mass shooting by a white nationalist, and once again he left a manifesto in which he said that races have evolved differentially and thus are unequal, and that he believed that there was a competition between the races going on, and it was based upon these Darwinian ideas. So Darwinism has had a profound impact upon the white nationalist movement today, who are overwhelmingly anti-Christian and pro-Darwin.
While eliminating the sanctity of human life, adherents to Darwinism also often proclaim who should live and who should die.
We do have a culture of death. It went from the womb to the nursing home to the intensive care unit, and now to the delivery room, where they're wanting to kill babies even after they're born. It's the idea you move from a sanctity of life ethic to a quality of life ethic.
Atheist and evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins recognizes the danger of the slippery slope, but says some human lives are simply not worth living.
If a baby was 1 year old and turned out to have some horrible, incurable disease that meant it was going to die in agony in later life, what about infanticide? Strictly morally, I can see no objection to that at all. I would be in favor of infanticide.
So if a human has dementia, or if a human is young enough that they can't express themselves with the amount of rationality that he thinks they need to have, then he thinks they're not persons. That's, by the way, the term that they use. It's called personhood theory. They say some humans are persons and some humans are not persons. Peter Singer, who's one of the leading bioethicists today, he's got an endowed chair at Princeton University, he very forthrightly argues that Darwinism unsanctifies human life. And so he believes that Darwinism does show us that humans don't have any special value or meaning or purpose. And so he also then promotes abortion, infanticide, euthanasia, assisted suicide.
I think that we don't take the interests of animals seriously enough, and in a way I think it's an implication of Darwinism that we should take them more seriously, or at least that it breaks down some of the barriers that have separated us from animals. But on the other hand, because I don't think that humans are special just in virtue of being a member of the species Homo sapien, I think that if you have humans who are, for example, severely damaged at birth, that it's not wrong to end their lives.
This is the natural end of an evolutionary view in which life is purely accidental. But the neurosurgeon Dr. Ben Carson has held human lives in his hands and takes a very different view.
You know, we are much more than just material. We're made in the image of God. We're actually able to communicate with God. We have a spiritual aspect to ourselves, and it makes us very special. Most people who have complex medical problems, you can have an agreement that you're not going to treat stuff. You're just going to, let nature take its course, and that usually works pretty well without you actually being engaged in virtually murder. Suicide is not something that should be engaged in. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't be compassionate toward people who are in terrible pain.
Switzerland, the first country to permit medical assistance in dying, now leads the pack for non-citizens who choose to take a lethal cocktail, calling it suicide tourism. Their laws allow people from all over the world to travel to Switzerland to end their lives, even if they are not terminally ill. And it happens at the same time as a rapid rise in secularism. And the right to die movement continues to spread around the globe as evolution replaces the sanctity of human life. A highly produced and exploitative commercial by Canadian fashion retailer Peter Simmons glamorizes the euthanasia of Jennifer, a 37-year-old artist in an ad campaign entitled, "All is Beauty."
Last breaths are sacred. And in these final moments, there is still so much beauty. You just have to be brave enough to see it.
Canada has become one of the most staunch of the countries in promoting assisted suicide and euthanasia today. And even Oregon in the United States preceded Canada in passing assisted suicide laws.
More than 32,000 Canadians have died with medical assistance since it became legal in 2016, over 10,000 of them in 2021 alone. Oregon was the first state to pass assisted suicide legislation. In 1998, 16 people chose to die, a number that rose to 245 in 2020, a 15-fold rise in just 2 decades, a reflection of what's to come in the future of the United States.
the progressive left, they have an agenda. That agenda is not about the sanctity of human life. It's not about human flourishing, because many of them believe that they have to save the planet. They want the planet to flourish. And when you want to take that back to Charles Darwin, when you believe that people evolved and there is no need for a creator God, then you can justify taking their lives by any means necessary to advance your goals.